Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're going to be taking a look at my deck. Now I know for a fact that obviously somebody is going to overtake me on leaderboards sooner rather than later, and the fight is still going to go on, and I'm still going to try and get back up to that first before the beta closes. However, as of right now, it is the top ranked deck in this masochism meta, which is also another very interesting caveat, very interesting point to make, that each node or nodes are obviously going to significantly change the champions that are being used. Also, initially, I did not run Liquid Courage Double Edge, but then at some point I just started flat out losing fights due to time, and that really kind of annoyed me. And then I did change my deck for Liquid Courage Double Edge Mastery setup. I'm going to show my Mastery setup in a separate video, and I'm going to go over the choices there, specifically for Battlegrounds. It's not going to be a long video, but nonetheless, I did not want to conflate the subjects. But I am running Liquid Courage Double Edge currently, and this is my deck. So there is no perfect way how to view it in game, so what I had to do is I took a bunch of screenshots, cropped them, and pieced them together. But here we are. So we're going to start with arguably one of the most popular champions. We're actually going to see which champion has been the most battle weary. At the moment, Ebony Maw is at 71. So Ebony Maw has been used a bunch recently. So I think Ebony Maw and King Groot is at 81 as well. Either way, Dr. Doom, an amazing champion, obviously, offensively and defensively. And yes, obviously, he's not particularly Courage Double Edge friendly. However, he nukes fights down quickly enough. And thanks to Masochism being there, he can easily trigger it. He triggers MD from it. He can get up to level 3 very quickly. Then after level 3, you drop another level 1, and, you know, the fights are pretty much over. And obviously, he's also a great defender. Those champions like that matter a lot. Similarly to Hercules, Hercules is actually a much better defender than people think as well, due to his immortality, forcing people to wait out. And that was the shift in the highest of tiers, where you do not necessarily want it to have the perfect counter or the best defender to stop your opponent. Your defenders kind of changed the role. And the role that had been changed for your defenders is that they are meant to stall opponent as much as possible, because the scoring system, I think, is better from what we saw before, but time matters too much here. I do think that Brian Grant had the perfect solution, where health remaining has a multiplier of 1 if the fight is not finished, and then health remaining gets a multiplier of 2 if you do KO the opponent. So when you KO the opponent, your health remaining all of a sudden becomes twice as important as the time was. If you don't, then it doesn't. I think that is by far the most elegant solution, where time HP does have, you know, a multiplier of 2 when opponents get KO'd. Either way, then we have Hercules, obviously just to nuke down plenty of opponents offensively, and also defensively he can cause people to stall out that immortality. Warlock is one of the MVPs for this entire thing. He's a very powerful defender, but also is absolutely clutch attacker, especially against those Weapon X champions. I often do either Mojo or plenty of other champs with this guy. He is just a machine. One of the MVPs, one of the champions I am happy to see the most on my initial drafts. Then we have Thing, again, primarily pretty much exclusively for defense. Kitty Pryde, ironically, and this is the thing, Kitty Pryde's quite easy to fight, especially with this node combination. You just need to be super aggressive and you need to corner her. I think I have not put her on defense in last days at all. If I do use her, I use her offensively because of her ability to ignore damage, basically, and then she can take on either Killmonger or Mephisto or something else. She's not the greatest for this mode, to be honest, but she does fine. But she's not that scary of a defender, at least not to me. Then Nick Fury, an absolute goat of the defender because of that double health pool there. Ebony Maw, one of the scariest Squidwards alive. Man, Ebony Maw has completely 180 on his rep now, because he's such a scary defender. And he's such an annoying defender, but he's also extremely capable offensively, which is something that I do like. Black Widow Clairvoyant, Again, that is a champion that I probably will replace. I just added her in not too long ago, but I have not been liking her too much. So I might swap her out either for Hood or something else. Then we have Cosmic Ghost Rider, just to nuke down the opponents. Killmonger is one of the hardest defenders in this mode, and he's such a perfect answer for Killmonger and plenty of other annoying fights. Then we have Human Torch, which pretty much always gets banned. You can see that he has not been used. Man-Thing, an absolute beast of a defender. That huge health pool. MD, stalling for days, great on defense. King Groot, another huge health pool, huge healing abilities. And King Groot actually is also a bit of a secret weapon. Now, he's a bit slow in an average fight. You can get the fight down under 2 minutes normally with King Groot if you play it well, if you're quite aggressive, and if you let the poison trigger and drop your level 2 just well, as the masochism timer's off, but it's not the ideal situation. However, he is an absolute MVP robot killer, because with plenty of Furies, he can just nuke down those robots like nobody's business. So there is another kind of like value side to King Groot besides him being an absolute defensive tank. And Nimrod, ironically, is not too great of a defender. He hasn't kind of like caused too many problems for a ton of people, at least for me, but he's one of the MVP attackers. That level 2 just melts pretty much everybody, and most of the fights last one level 2. And thanks to Masochism, because it does trigger as a regen buff, he's also easier to ramp up, because every time Masochism does trigger, he does gain a charge, which is kind of quite helpful. Immortal Abomination, again, very troublesome offensively and defensively. Archangel, another champion that does get banned a lot. Then we have Penny Parker, obviously defensive tank, but she's also another champion I actually end up placing a lot on defense, and I have used her offensively for sure to kill Nick Furies, because she has a phenomenal Nick Fury matchup. Because once the first life expires, if your Penny Parker is awakened, Nick Fury is just going to kill himself, basically. And then you can also use her against different champions, because she does have Incinerate and Poison immunities, which can come in handy. Ghost, just to nuke down a ton of potential problem fights. We have Killmonger. Killmonger is one of the tankiest champions in the game, because he does have crit resistance, and because he does gain power whenever you do try to debuff him. He's definitely a champion you have to have a good counter in your deck, and you always want to have a good counter if you do see him available. I lost 2 or 3 matches initially because of Killmonger, and then it was clear to me that the dude is such a tank, and I need to find better answers for him. Man, the guy's so annoying. Then we have Mojo, another one of those that's actually quite underrated offensively. I have actually won several matches thanks to him on offense. Immortal Hulk, huge health pool, and immortality, and all that good stuff just to try and help and delay opponents. Plus, on top of that, he is a science. Sometimes I think I used him once offensively, but I might sub him out for something else. Kingpin, one of the MVPs. Good defender, great attacker as well. Bishops, likewise, very good attacker, great defender, one of those champions that force people to think. Domino has come in handy both offensively and defensively for me. I actually end up using Domino multiple times against tricky skill attackers, skill defenders at times. But yeah, Domino definitely a solid kind of like mainstay there. Sasquatch, another one of the defensive beasts that's, quite tricky to actually get KO'd unless you have a very good counter for. Cersei is somebody that I am kind of testing and trying about, because at the higher ranks, many people do run Liquid Courage Double Edge and obviously focus on really hard hitting champions. And if there is a draft where not too many mystic attackers are being drawn, then Cersei can potentially just flat out stop opponents because of that glancing. That glancing is very powerful, and is not to be underestimated. So Cersei is kind of like interesting champ that I'm kind of trying out. Haven't gotten a ton of value as of her yet, but I do also have kind of like a secret use for Cersei, because she can be very good offensively too, if need be, as a surprise attacker. So when you draft her, people can think that you're picking her as a defender, but she can actually answer some problem fights offensively. Then we have Hulkbuster. Hulkbuster, I think, is quite underrated for this game mode. He's very great for it because he does have power control, he does have armor breaks, he is tanky himself. You can put him on defense, and then opponents need some sort of ability to deal with shocks, and he's definitely a great champion to be kind of like quite versatile. Diablo is one of the MVPs, absolute destroyer of ton of harder matchups, because his poisons pretty much shut down masochism even for champions that typically would not get shut down by it. He's great against a ton of different trouble fights. I have never put him on defense, but he's one of the MVP attackers for me personally. APOC, honestly, I hardly ever use. I don't particularly like APOC either way. I might actually end up subbing APOC out because offensively, yes, he can ignore the masochism, but if you have APOC with like one charge, then he's not really the hardest hitting beast in there. And defensively as well, I think there's just so many options against him. I'm not too sure, but APOC definitely has not been like, putting in the biggest amount of work there for me. Then we have Mole which is a great offensive and defensive champion as well. Definitely has clutched out a ton of victories for me, including in some unlikely scenarios. And the last one is Magneto. I'm going to be flat out honest. Now, Magneto has brought me several wins, but I always like to have Magneto, but don't like to use Magneto, if that makes sense, because he's not really the quickest killer. And there have been many times when, opponent plays a defender that Magneto counters perfectly, but I still end up losing just because of time or, basically time. So Magneto is great, but I have completely abandoned going for level 3s typically when I play with Magneto, and I instead try and drop my level 1s and level 2s and just try and get the fights done as quickly as possible, because the time is kind of making using Magneto a bit more annoying, but he's still very, very important to have. So this is my deck currently. As I said, there are definitely several champions that I'm going to be playing around. Like, I'm not too sold on Apocalypse. Cersei is not perhaps absolute permanent mainstay. Neither is Immortal Hulk. I might actually kick off Penny, but that depends on my testing. And then on top of that, I also am not too sold on maybe Thing, Kitty Pryde, and Black Widow Clairvoyant. Those are the champions I'm kind of thinking about changing. Those are not kind of like definite mainstays in this meta. But that is my deck as of right now. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoyed my commentary. And I'm going to catch you guys later. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the